Hello, brothers and sisters. I'm making this video. It's probably going to be my last video. We're getting really close to the end, pretty much the final chapter. I'm making this video so that I can connect the dots for you, since I have all my information and scriptures together, connecting all the dots between the signs in the sun, the moon and stars, and the Antichrist and how it's connected. So I'm going to probably be reading from my notes because I want to make sure I use the words the Holy Spirit gave me when I was writing it. I'm also going to be doing a summary of my dreams and visions and going over where we are in prophecy, because this, my brothers and sisters, is the end. They know who I am. They mocked me with Google, the picture of the day. They ruined my computer, my last one. They ruined my tablet. They've corrupted files on my computer. They blurred my videos on YouTube. They shadow banned me on Twitter. They shadow banned me on Facebook. But they can't stop God. Anybody that God wanted to see those videos, he led them to. And that's why they couldn't delete them or block me until soon. In January 1st, I heard they're supposed to change everything. Twitter's changing and YouTube. So probably most of us are just going to be offline at that point, because we have to sign a contract and you have to monetize your videos. So we're getting close. If you've been watching the news about end times, you know, there's news locations where they actually talk about real stuff and about the end times. You should know that we've been hearing rumors of war for a long time, and they've been threatening back and forth. And pretty soon is going to be destruction. And the people of Jerusalem need to go. When the tribulation begins, it's probably, it is going to be worse than anything you could imagine. And not only that, but there will be a veil lifted in between what I would call other parallel and here. So people will be able to see demons and stuff. I'm going to start reading Matthew chapter 24, because it's quite relevant. Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and when shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Those are already happening. They have been for the last 4 years that I've been doing this, and longer. Verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another, and many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And pause right there. After verse 14, and I just wanted to say that I have seen a video of an island where they had a tribe that wouldn't let anybody on the island without killing them. And that was only a couple years ago, maybe like a year ago, I saw another video where somebody actually made it onto the island and got the guy to touch his hand, and then the video was over, but that proves that somebody got in there. So that means that they could get preached to now, if they can get through to them. So, you know, that would be like one of the last places that would need to be preached. Verse 15, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. The holy place is Jerusalem. Verse 16, then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes, and woe unto them that are with child, and them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should be no flesh saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Now, I read something one time, a person was telling me that the Pope does something on Easter or something like that, and he has something happen where he makes fire come down from the sky, or I'm not sure exactly, but that's one of the things that's a false signs and wonders. Verse 25, behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. See how he said desert and chambers? Keep that in mind. 27, for as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even to the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will be eagles will be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heaven to the other. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. The funny thing about that is a guy that I've been talking to from Switzerland, which is really bad there, by the way. He said everybody's getting robbed and murdered and raped and everything. It's really, really bad. Everything's starting off like all the other countries. It's not bad here yet, but I'm sorry for the people who it is, because they're going through a lot and they're afraid to even go out of their houses. But he was telling me, and see, he didn't know this verse probably because he's been learning. He turned around real fast and he became Christian, straight, trying to follow Jesus. And he's giving me a lot of confirmations. Like God will tell him, he will ask me something, and it'll be like coincide with something that I've been doing or saying or sharing, and it's their confirmation. So the funny thing is, right before I did this, a couple days ago, so he asked me. He said he keeps seeing things about fig trees everywhere, and he feels like it was some kind of a message or a sign. And then today I'm reading this, and I'm like, that's probably what God was trying to tell us. 33, so likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass, so all these things will be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came, and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. 40, then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would have come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye ready also, for in such an hour as ye think not the Son of Man cometh. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant, whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find doing so. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. And if that evil servant shall say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Trying to connect these dots, but I want to read the scriptures to you so that you can connect the dots with me. Luke 17:24, For as the lightning that lighteneth out of one part under the heaven shineth unto the other part under the heaven, so shall also the Son of Man be in his day. Okay, first I want to begin with, after that, there are some things that you probably have heard that are lies. These are things that are, word of mouth, rumors, no scriptural basis. First, people think that they're waiting for a third temple. Please do yourself a favor when it comes to this lie. Go to the link that you would send to somebody if someone had asked you, and with the Bible verses that you find, I want you to go to those verses in the Bible and read the context around them. And you'll see that none of the verses that are supplied are in context. They're not talking about a third temple. So I've gone through this for 4 years. Every single person that said anything about it, I've said, where did you get the scripture from? And none of them know. They all refer me to a link that they just quickly picked up, and they didn't do their research and find out that none of it is in context. And it's like the same verses every time out of context that people are just keep sending to each other, and people are like, okay, click. You have to do your research. You have to pay attention, because every word matters. Jesus said in Acts 17:24, God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with the hands. 1 Corinthians 6:19, What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? They want you to think you're waiting for a third temple so that you won't be looking up like Jesus told us to. You really, if you don't understand that, you need to go and read all the words that Jesus said, because that is the most important. Jesus said to look up when you see these things come to pass. That's what I'm doing, and now I'm showing. People who say that the rapture is not before the beginning of the official tribulation are wrong. And you can see that by the corroborating stories of those who were shown the rapture in dreams and visions. There are thousands on YouTube, and I've also seen it. Speaking in tongues is not a requirement to show you have the Holy Spirit. To some is given that gift, and to others is given other gifts. 1 Corinthians 12:10, starting with 7 in context. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal, for to one is given by the Spirit of the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge, by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the same Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, to another diverse kinds of tongues, to another interpretation of tongues. But all these things work at that one and the self-same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will. For as the body is one, and hath many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. For by one Spirit are we all baptized into one body, whether we be Jews or Gentiles, whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink into one Spirit. My dream of the Antichrist. I was working in a restaurant in my dream. I worked there every night for some reason. Then one night, while I was working in my dream, the Antichrist came to the doorway, and it was a shadow-like figure, like an absence. And there was light coming from the doorway. It was white behind him. I told him I will not serve him, and he said, "But I have done these things for you." I said, "That was before I knew who you were." So I was fired from that as a job for refusing to serve him. He has the world under a spell. After that, I didn't work there, but in other places I worked and have been ever since. The figure in my dream is the same as the video that was taken of Obama showing his real face on TV. At the end of his second term in 2016, he acted like it was a joke for Halloween. 1 Thessalonians 4:17. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Revelation 3:10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Daniel 12:1-2. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Mark 13:32. But if that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. No one's going to know a date, but I'm telling you that he still gave us clues. And the clues that we gave us led us to a time frame. We're not going to know a date because then he couldn't sneak up on us, So he's not going to give us a date. But we do have a time frame. Because of my dreams and visions and the other people's dreams and visions that corroborate date. To know the day and hour, you would have to know the actual date. Because let me tell you how I know for sure the rapture is on Friday at 6:45 USA time, Eastern. Okay. God, since I've been a child, has shown me things before they happen. And they're always warnings. Well, the first thing I remember, I didn't break my leg because I had a dream over and over again, and it warned me. But he was showing me how he was going to show me things now, so I would know it was him. So, I know because I was falling asleep in my chair one day, and he wanted to show me how he was going to show me something. So, I fell asleep, and he gave me a dream of the future. It was a couple days before, and I fell asleep, and I woke up saying, "Let me have your insurance information." And I didn't really remember much of the dream until I actually had it happen a couple days later. And when I got out of the car and I said those words, "Let me see your insurance information," I remembered the dream, and it was like so weird. But anyway, he was showing me how he was going to show me something. So like a week later, he showed me what I just told you. I fell asleep. But while I was sitting there, before I fell asleep, I was thinking about, I wonder when the rapture's going to be. And I didn't want to keep, ask him, I know he's not going to give me a date, so I was just wondering to myself. And then I fell asleep and immediately woke up saying Friday at 6:45. I don't really talk in my sleep. I might snore, but I don't really talk. And he, like I said, he showed me the way he was going to show me a couple days before. That also corroborates with the stories of the other people who have seen visions and dreams of it, depending on where they're located. Because say if somebody was in another country and it happened, it could be dark there, but my vision, it was 6:45, and I was going to pick up my husband from work, so I know that it was 6:45 p.m., and it was still light out. And if it's still light out at 6:45 p.m., that means it's got to be around spring or summer. Which is right on time. And also on May 14th, 2020, the Pope is inviting all religious leaders all leaders, religious and otherwise, to the Vatican so they can have a meeting about global education on climate change and humanism. And if you don't know what humanism is, it basically it erases God. It's taking God out of the factors that are happening. It's saying God doesn't have nothing to do with what's going on. It's not. If you look it up, or it's just bad. So it's kind of odd timing. Not really, because no such thing as coincidences with God. So that's how I know. Now, let's quickly revisit the compiled pictures I had in my science videos. There's angels in the clouds. Okay, for 4 years I've been observing, studying, compiling, analyzing, pairing with the scripture. I can be sure when I tell you there are thousands, maybe more angels in the sky. They're spraying the skies non-stop now because they are trying to hide the signs in the sun, but also they're hiding figures in the clouds. There are a few different shapes of the angels, and you have to kind of read between the lines to see them. Figures in the clouds. Let me say this. I know that there are figures in the clouds. They follow the sun, and depending on the season, you can see them here or in other places. They rise with the sun, and they go down with the sun. And I've taken the same pictures of those same places every year, and they're the same shapes, same figures. And what happens is, I know this because of dreams also, and because of scriptures, that when you die, you get a small waiting period, and then you be judged. And there's no such thing as a good person, but the saved, truly saved, the pure hearts, they stay in the clouds with Jesus. The lukewarm, as he says, I'll spew thee out of my mouth. Now, when I show you this picture, you're going to know what I mean when he says, I'll spew thee out of my mouth. And those people come back down, and they are in what I call sort of like a probation. And while they're in that probation, they have to read the Bible. I know because my sister was there. I'm really going to want to come back to that because I already wrote notes on it, and it's kind of not in order. So for now, I'm going to say let's move on to the signs and how it connects with the Antichrist. If you've seen my videos, this will be easier to understand. If you haven't, you might want to watch the signs and the Antichrist video on my list of YouTube videos before you see this, because I don't think you might not understand it unless you've seen the things that I showed. I explained in those that the signs in the sun were described in the book of Ezekiel, the book of Daniel, and the book of Revelation. If I had to guess which books had the most prophecy, I would say those three. Not just those, like most of the Bible is prophecy. And it's in, I had to stop going to church because the pastor was wrong. He told me that Emmanuel is not Jesus. Really? I had to read the Bible myself, close out all outside interpretations to get the Holy Spirit's interpretation. And honestly, nowadays, that's one of the best things you could do because the pastors sugarcoat everything and they don't preach prophecy. Now, if they're not preaching prophecy, then they're not preaching most of the Bible. And if he didn't even know Emmanuel was Jesus, thank you and goodbye. I can't find a place around here or any church that does it right. And you know what? We're not supposed to take a title, so why am I going to listen to someone who gives himself one? Anyway, if you've seen my videos, this will be easier to understand. Let me see. Matthew 26:64. Jesus said unto him, Thou hast said, nevertheless, I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Hereafter means from now on. So he's saying, from now on, you're going to see me in the clouds. Okay? Connecting the dots here. Now, let's take a look at the newer pictures that will begin to bring some of it together. We have 2 sons. 1 son and 1 son. And normally I would capitalize 1, but now I'm saying it, so it doesn't sound right. But anyway, we have 2 sons. I have plenty of pictures of them, you can see. And if you want to see more pictures, you can go ahead and go on my Twitter at LaurenLindsayDJ, the Lindsay spelled with an A. And you can see all my pictures. I have so many. I have thousands and thousands. My guess would be it's close to 1 million pictures from the last 4 years of the signs in the sun, moon, clouds, stars, everything. There's a rainbow that actually has been following the sun in the same spot as compared to where it is for this whole 4 years. And every single day that it's clear in Jacksonville, you could see it. But not just here. Even when it's cloudy, the cloud actually enhances it. I have plenty of pictures of that too. And it's been following it just like that for this last 4 years at least. And I have plenty of proof of that. Not to mention when you say the eyes are stolen, are part of the stolen identity. Now, that's what I'm going to get to in a minute, is that Satan stole God's identity. Let's take a look at this first. The animals around the sun, okay? Revelation 4:7. And the first beast was like a lion, the second beast like a calf, the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. So it's saying those 4 beasts are around God, around Jesus, however you want to name it. Okay? Let me see. DNA and cloning. When you get cloned, you come out the same age you were when they took the picture, when they took the DNA. And they now can upload your consciousness to another body. They call it a sleeve. They can 3D print bodies and keep them on hold. If you want to see the video demonstration on YouTube, the video is called capital C, capital E, capital S, 2018. Sleeves, human consciousness can now be transferred to another body. First man ladies is what I call this. Most of the women you see in politics and on TV and the singers and everything, they're all transvestites. They're tricking people into thinking they're liking the same sex by putting those features into a disguise of the other sex, so the mind gets tricked. So that's one way they mess with people and brainwash them. And another way is the mercury in the vaccines. Because I have read, and you can look it up, there's articles about how there was too much mercury in the environment, where there was a bunch of birds, and the birds were turning gay. So, anyway, if you see these two, I mean, how many other of them were? God knows. Which, I mean, that has nothing to do with Jesus, but it's important to know who your enemy is. It's important to know that they're trying to brainwash you so that you can avoid it. Let me see here. Satan has gone by many alias. That is their obsession with 9/11, Revelation 9:11, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Now, Barak in Hebrew means lightning. So that right there, that's 1, 2, 3 alias of Satan. And that's only 3. I know that of a lot of them, and there's probably way more than what I have as a collective of knowledge.
I want to thank the Lucas Bros and their boy Chirac. As a result of their awesome moving skills, they have saved Brooklyn and killed the Illuminati once and for all.
Luke 10:18, and he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Now, Barack was born, according to this, August 4th, 1961. But it's not true. They did use that date because they like the 4s, 6s, and 9s because they all look like 6s. The Antichrist started out as Akhenaten. Akhenaten was the first creator of the Pope position. That's why both the Acosta of Christ and Barry, which is Obama's original name, Barry Soetoro, both add up to 666 in Jewish gematria. And you know what's funny is the real Jewish gematria chart is very hard to find if you don't already have it. And you can go online and it'll tell you a million different charts for Jewish gematria. But the one I had from a long time ago actually came out with these right results. And then later on, after I had lost it, I found out that that had to have been the one because it had all the right results. And those are the right results. Not only that, but I got it off of a Freemason website. But the Freemason website, when I went back to look for it few years later, they had taken it off. So it's not there anymore. But Akhenaten, starting out as Amenhotep IV, was an Egyptian pharaoh in the 18th dynasty who ruled for 17 years. Now, he's the one that introduced worship centered on the Aten, which is sometimes described as monolatristic, henotheistic, or even quasi-monotheistic. An early inscription likens the Aten to the sun as compared to stars, and later official language avoids calling the Aten a god, giving the solar deity a status above mere gods. So, basically, he made people worship him as the sun, because he took God's identity, saying that all these signs are mine. As you can see, he's wearing the cobra hat, and it looks like a member on top. Now that is Akhenaten, and that's how he started. That's how that fish hat thing came about. It's actually a serpent, because you can see the cobra hood. That's the headdress that Akhenaten would wear. Okay. Heliocentrism is the astronomical model in which the Earth and planets revolve around the Sun at the center of the solar system. Historically, heliocentrism was opposed to geocentrism, which placed the Earth at the center. Now, remember, I just said that he likened the Sun to the stars. So basically, not only did he steal God's identity, but he made up the rotation around the Sun as that being the center of it. So, I'm going to read these to you real quick. And I want you to see what I'm talking about when I say he will be in the clouds. And I told you there's 2 suns. Showed you. Revelation 1:16. And he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword, and his countenance was as the sun shineth in its strength. Now, do you see the 2-edged sword? 2 Thessalonians 2:8. Then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Have you heard of the 7 spirits of God in Revelation? Revelation 3:16. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Revelation 4:3. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow round about the throne in sight like unto an emerald. So I have all of those signs on camera. And these are from worldwide weather cams that I've been taking for the last 4 years, which you probably already know if you've seen my videos. Also, Acts 1:9 through 11. And when he had spoken these things while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, 2 men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? The same Jesus which is taken up from you unto heaven shall so come in the like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. See what I mean when I said he stole God's identity? And all that, a lot of those symbolisms that he stole came from the signs in the sun, and he had to explain them. And when he claimed that for his own, they started using symbolism for Satanism. That's why Jesus needed a new name. Revelation.1:7, Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, Amen. Matthew.17:5, While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. Psalm 8:9-15. He bowed the heavens also, and came down, and darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon a cherub, and did fly, yea, he did fly upon the wings of the wind. He made darkness his secret place. His pavilion round about him were dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. And at the brightness that was before him, his thick clouds passed, hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord also thundered in the heavens, and the highest gave his voice, hailstones and coals of fire. Yea, he sent out his arrows and scattered them, and he shot out lightnings and discomfited them. Then the channels of the waters were seen, and the foundations of the world were discovered at thy rebuke, O Lord, at the blast of the breath of thy nostrils. Are you connecting the dots with me here? So, as you have seen, we have 2 sons. Right here now. Well, let's take a look at, where was I at on these pages? Aten is the disk of the sun in ancient Egyptian mythology. And see how it says disk of the sun? In ancient Egyptian mythology, and originally an aspect of god Ra, the deified Aten is the focus of the monotheistic religion of Atenism established by Amenhotep IV, who later took the name Akhenaten in worship and recognition of Aten. In his poem, Great Hymn to the Aten, Akhenaten praises Aten as the creator, giver of life, and nurturing spirit of the world. Aten does not have a creation myth or family, but is mentioned in the Book of the Dead. The worship of Aten was eradicated by Horemheb. Monolatry is the belief in the existence of many gods, but with the consistent worship of only one deity. The term monolatry was perhaps first used by Julius Wellhausen. Henotheism is the worship of a single god while not denying the existence or possible existence of other deities. This is how his tomb was described. The pillared burial chamber where his granite sarcophagus sat in a slight dip in the floor, it was decorated by carvings of Nefertiti acting as a protective goddess, and by the ever-present sun disk of the Aten. So, also stole his identity. So, I found an article, I can't remember, 8/14/2018. Archaeologists are now working carefully to lift the mysterious statue. Egypt Today reports, officials say that because of its location, the statue cannot be directly extracted from the ground. Archaeologists opened cursed ancient Egyptian sarcophagus. While the famous Great Sphinx of Giza on the outskirts of Cairo, is the best known. There are a number of similar Sphinx statues in Luxor. Ancient Egypt continues to reveal its secrets. Archaeologists recently opened a cursed ancient black granite sarcophagus. In a separate project, experts also unearthed a 2,200-year-old coin depicting the ancient king Ptolemy III, an ancestor of the famed Cleopatra. And they also found on 8/8/2016 a picture on NASA's website of the angel opening the bottomless pit. And also, if you look, I found these pictures, and this one on the left is a picture that I got from a Skycam that has already been taken down. It was taken down right after I showed it, but you can see that the glass is broken. Revelation 9:2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the reason of the smoke of the pit. If you look at this picture, you can see, first of all, Osama bin Laden was a costume, and then he became president. It was cloned. You can see that the statue that looks just like Michelle, and the two statues that look like their so-called children. And you can see at the top left, that is when he revealed his face, his real face, in October 2016 at the end of his last term. He also went to each country and asked each leader to step down.
Earlier today.
Obamacare is great, and it's really working.
You're absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith, and you're absolutely right that that is not my Christian faith, my Muslim faith, my Muslim faith, my Muslim faith, my Muslim faith.
When he was done, he supposedly sold the internet to another country. And as you can see, you can even see right there that it looks like him drawn on the wall. And the Sphinx is a temple to him. It's the same thing. You can see the cobra hood, and all the identifying features are missing. They took them off. And also, there was a Pope's World Religious Meeting, ecumenical meeting. And this was a few years ago. I'm not sure exactly what the date was. Sorry about that, but you can see the Pope in the background, and right above him is a picture of the Antichrist, standing in the eye that he stole. He's not the eye. The eye doesn't represent him, but he stole that representation. Let's see what else we have. Obviously, he's doing some satanic stuff. December 29th, 2012, President Barack Obama signed H.R. 4310, the 2013 National Defense Authorization Act. Section 107.8 of the bill authorizes the use of propaganda inside the U.S., which had previously been banned since 1948 when the Smith-Mundt Act was passed. Luke 10:18, and he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Like I said, that means Barak means lightning in Hebrew. And look what he's wearing. There's many pictures of this online. You can see that. You can find this online, him dressed like this. Ordinary men and women too small-minded to govern their own affairs. These are his quotes. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign. Really? I'm going to read to you. This is a comment that was left on one of my videos. Okay, it was left on one of my videos, and it was telling me, because this is when I first found out about it being two sons. Revelation 10:1. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. Revelation.19:11. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. Revelation.19:19. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. I searched King James Bible online, and son is only capitalized 2 times out of 150. The first one is Joshua 10:12. Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel, and he said on the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gideon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. The very next verse, sun and moon are not capitalized. The second time is in Malachi 4:2, but I will start with you 4:1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly, shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that shall leave them neither root nor branch. Malachi 4:2. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise, with healing in his wings, and you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. So you may think that your government is trying to be for your best interest, but if you think that, then I have news for you. They're all in and on it together, and it's right there in the prophecies, and it's all playing out right in front of you. A lot of people are idolizing, okay? They're blinded by the idolatry. Ezekiel 8:7-16. And he brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Excuse me. Then said he unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. That's the carvings within the Egyptian structures. And there stood before them 70 men of ancient of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Jezaniah, the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Then said he unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark, every man in his chamber of his imagery? For they say, The Lord seeth us not, the Lord hath forsaken the earth. He said also unto me, Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Now, Tammuz is another alias of Satan, and that's what Ash Wednesday is about. They're actually worshiping in a way that was created for Tammuz. Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, and they worshipped the sun toward the east. That's talking about Islam. Muslim. Daniel 7:8. I considered the horns, and behold, there come among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So, you can see that he does the hand signals. You can hear it in the way that he talks. You can see it when he does blasphemous things. I mean, look. People are just not even paying attention, or they don't care. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Daniel 11:27. And both of these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. And remember, it said that Satan had but a short time. When people die, they have this period. So you see that they're mocking it on iPet Goat too. And I have plenty of pictures. And that's just another corroboration from the other side, basically. So it corroborates my research. Now let's talk about dreams and visions. Acts 2:17. And it shall come to pass in the last days that, saith God, I will pour out of my spirit upon all flesh. And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men dream dreams. Joel 2:28. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, and young men shall see visions. Psalms chapter 19. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath set a tabernacle for the sun, which is a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. Isaiah 11:4. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth, and he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall slay the wicked. I want to show you this vision that I had. It was a hot pepper with something poking out of it. People came out of it. Then they were next to the sun. The sun grabs them with a clear yoke-looking thing. They're pulled up, and the orb becomes a disco ball. You zoom inside the disco ball, and you see the little girl looking at a stage. The stage turned into a bomb mushroom cloud. Okay. Around 2010 or 11, I actually cracked my head open, and I flew off a bike, and it hit my face. And I'm trying to explain, this is why the elite, you'll see them walking around, most of them have one black eye, because they're trying to crack their forehead. Because it gives access to that pineal gland and gives you an intuition. I'm not sure exactly how they can use it, but without God, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. But you used to have it to become, what is this, priest? Anyway, used to have it and to do that. But as soon as I had that, I started having dreams about the rapture and the flood. I had never before read the Bible at the time, so I didn't even know really what the rapture was. I was in this house I live in now that I had never saw before. I had a dog that hadn't been born yet, but I have her now. I had a blue van in the dream that I actually have had, but it wasn't the car I moved here with. So I go to the back of the house, and I put my dogs in their room and go to leave the house. And as soon as I walk out my gate, I start rising up. I was on my way to get my husband from work. I had a big brown dog that wasn't mine, but I was taking care of it. Turned out that a big brown dog was one day all of a sudden living under my house, so I took him in. He was big, but he was a big baby. He was big and gentle. I didn't keep him in the fence because he wasn't my dog, and he wanted to get out, so he got hit by a car, but he was one of the key points in my dream. When I woke up, I remembered especially certain things that I told my husband. The dream was like a long time on fast forward and stopped on key points, so I'd remember them. I told my husband the details when I woke up and said, I think I had a dream of the rapture. I knew in this dream that it was the rapture, but I had never known what it was before. about 4 years ago, I remembered the dream after I saw the key points that triggered the memories and began to nonstop research and prophesy. And that's what he put me here for. So I'm here and I'm helping you. I'm trying to help you connect the dots here. And I'm pretty sure by now you've kind of gotten what I'm trying to say. The dream of the flood. I was on Palm Beach Island, standing on the sidewalk between the beach and the strip of the rich people condos. Now, it was a nice day out, but I wasn't actually on the sand of the beach. I was on the sidewalk right next to it. There were condos or apartments or something. Here's a picture. It was actually 300 South Ocean Boulevard I was standing out in front of. So I heard a noise, and it was like a roaring. I looked to my left. There was a wall of water coming towards me, so I ran as fast as I could to the apartment building closest to me. After the wave passed, the people who made it to safety up there all were, for the same reason, able to go from one apartment building to the one next to it. But I think they had to build something or use something to make like a bridge on the roof. We were stranded on those two buildings for 2 weeks. I remember that specifically. Then at the end of my dream, a helicopter came, and as I was about to go up in it, I turned around and said, "That's okay, I won't be here." So this is a certain warning. The flood dream continued to another night, but this one was in Lake Worth, which is the next town over. This means miles long will it be, this wave. In this one, I was at the apartment building across from where my sister-in-law used to live. This was to show where it would be affected. So it's going to be flooded up to 1 story. I had to go out the door on the 2nd floor into the water and swim to the store. So that's how I knew that that's how high it's going to be. That's just the next town over. I don't know how high it's going to be when they're stuck in those 2 buildings on the island, but I pray they get warned, because we were stuck there for 2 weeks without food and water. We actually had to scrounge and scavenge for anything we could find. So hopefully, if anyone needs to know and they see this video, if you get stuck there, find a way to get into the building next door, because that's what we did. We found a way to get into the building next door, and we found some food. So build some kind of bridge, get your pieces together, do whatever you have to do to get to that building next door when you run out of food, because I dreamed it, and it's going to happen. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you the dream with planets, the one with stars, and the one with UFOs. First, the one with the planets. I was dreaming, and I was behind Jesus, and he was facing the sky, and he was pointing up at the sky. And I looked up, and the sun was going down, but right next to it was the same size red orb, a planet or something. And as the sun was going down behind the horizon, the red orb came down in front of the horizon. And then I had another dream where he was pointing at the sky, and there was 3 sections of the stars. There was bright, dim, and dark. So those were those dreams. Just to tell you what they are, I mean, I never really tried to interpret them too much, because it's really, goes along with what's going on. But I also had a dream where I was walking down my street, and I had to have been walking down the street, because I noticed the other day when I was walking my dogs that I looked up and it was the same trees from in my dream. So in the dream, I'm looking up, and I hear these big, big sounds like a fleet of jets flying by, but they're UFOs. They were right above the treetops, and they were all circle with little multicolored lights all around the outside edge. There's got to be a reason why I dreamt that. I think they're going to use aliens, who are actually demons, as an excuse for why we disappear in the rapture. Because they're going to have to explain it. People are going to go crazy. People are going to be crying. Their children are going to be gone. It's going to be insane. So that's why they're going to have to use martial law. Another woman who had a dream I was watching online the other day. She had a dream, and it was around the end of baseball season, which corroborates my dreams and everything that the Holy Spirit spoke out of my mouth. Another woman I just met online had some dreams that were similar to mine. She had similar dreams about the red planet and the stars. And her dream about the red planet, it was, I don't want to explain it wrong, so just briefly tell you, it was, my dream was the red planet coming towards the Earth from this view. Her dream was the red thing coming towards the Earth from an aerial view. She could see the planet and then the red thing coming towards it. So those corroborate each other. I want to read you an article about what happens when we die, specifically the dimension of the land of the dead, as I was talking about earlier. The Fourth Dimension and the Bible is the name of the article. www.math.brown.edu/squiggle BANCHOFF/Yale/project13/Bible. The Fourth Dimension in the Bible. There are many passages in the Bible that can be interpreted to prove the existence of higher dimensions. Disappearances can be explained by the escape into physical fourth dimension. William Anthony Granville, author of The Fourth Dimension in the Bible, explains a man, three-dimensional being, who has been translated from our space into a higher dimensional space will remain invisible to earthly beings until he returns again to our space. Genesis 5:24 and Hebrews 11:5 describe Enoch walking with God and then disappearing because God took him. Jesus inexplicably escapes from threatening multitudes twice. John 8:59 and 10:39. It seems most logical that Jesus used the fourth dimension to elude his would-be captors. Similar to the power to disappear from three-dimensional beings, another who could move in a fourth physical dimension could also transport himself, herself, anywhere in a three-dimensional world instantly. The Bible also contains examples of appearances which also are easily explained with the use of the fourth dimension. Twice Jesus entered into the room of the disciples without using a door. John 20:19-23 and 26-29, entering a room through its walls only possible through the fourth dimension. Another example of movement only possible in the fourth dimension is contained in Acts 8:39-40. Philip baptized a eunuch on the road and then was swept up by the Lord and found later that day at Azotus, which was several days' journey from where Philip baptized the eunuch. God is considered to be omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and infinite to human beings. These characteristics seem impossible for humans to understand. Many people base their spiritual faith on this lack of understanding and attribute to God characteristics that are impossible for three-dimensional humans to understand. However, the existence of a God, a higher dimensional being, explains these characteristics simply, and God as a higher dimensional being is only omnipotent, omniscient, etc. to lower dimensional beings. The existence of a higher dimensions clearly explains all of these powers attributes to God. It is interesting to consider God's dimensionality. While some people believe that God exists in the fourth dimension, many others place God in a higher dimension. The following websites, which were on the link that I just gave to you, following websites attribute God as existing in the 12th dimensions. While this view does not seem illogical, it does seem a bit arbitrary. Spirit Web describes the 12th dimension as a combination of unity and duality because the number 12 is composed of 1 and 2. Spirit Web continues to describe the 12th dimension as it includes and exceeds all infinities beyond definition. It is always more than we can imagine. Another spiritual view of God's dimensionality states that not only does God exist in a higher physical dimension, but God may also attain higher dimensions of the time and even other factors. The following site argues that God must have two time dimensions in order to be able to hear and respond to different people at the same time. A second dimensionality of time would allow God to hear simultaneously. All who wish to communicate the idea that there are other factors of dimensionality, which are not even aware of, is interesting. It seems possible that we could only understand the first dimension of another characteristic, and thus cannot even imagine the possibility of a higher dimension's feelings, emotions, and telepathy are possible examples. Whether God exists in the 4th, 12th, or any other dimension as a higher dimensional being, God can be anywhere at any time and can choose whether or not to let us see an image of God. Similarly, we are, as 3-dimensional beings, could choose what images of ourselves we allow inhabitants of 2-dimensional flatland to see. We can either exist above or below the flatland plane and remain invisible, or can let it intersect, use us showing to citizens of a flatland cross-section of ourselves. God, by the same metaphor, can either view us and remain invisible, or can choose to allow us to view a 3-dimensional square section of God's physical body. The most major contribution of higher dimensional study to spiritualism relates to death. Death is the most frightening event of the life of a human because when one dies, one can have no knowledge of what death brings. This uncertainty regarding death, for the most part, explains the importance of religion and spiritualism on earth. Many religions quell this fear and encourage good behavior by saying that good people are rewarded with eternal salvation, or a type of heaven, while bad people are eternally damned to a place like hell. The existence of a higher dimension provides the opportunity for different explanations of what happens when we die. Good people, as defined by religions, rather than going to heaven, may shift to another world into the 4th dimension. Rather than going to heaven, this world may or may not be a utopian existence. They may be able to look down upon our 3-dimensional world, or they may only be able to imagine looking down upon it. As we can imagine looking down on flatland, this shift may not even be restricted to any type of people, but may happen to everyone. Or it may be restricted to good people only, with bad people being damned into 2 or 1 dimension. Alternatively, popular religions may be the right that the good go to heaven while the bad go to hell. 2 Kings 2:11 describes Elijah being separated from Elisha by a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and then Elijah being taken away to heaven in a whirlwind. Rather than the popular belief of heaven existing in the clouds and hell existing underground, both may exist in the 4th dimension. That concept even follows the belief that those in heaven can look down upon those on the earth rather than looking down from the clouds. Our ancestors may look down upon humans from the 4th dimension, but by this rationale, those in hell also can look up at us also from the 4th dimension. That would also explain why we as 3-dimensional beings can never find either heaven or hell. Movement to a higher dimension upon death would also explain how a dead body remains on earth, but a part of the person, his or her soul, could move into a higher dimension without being seen by earth inhabitants. The idea of a soul moving into the 4th dimension and being eternal always allays the fear of death to many people. Higher dimensions can be used to provide a future beyond death. Religion may not be necessary to as many people in the future as an explanation of death. First I'll read Daniel 12:2. Many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall wake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Notice here how it says sleep. When I go to sleep, I go to the other side, or parallel, which is one way I could put it, because I go there and I work. Revelation 3:16. So then because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. I've had many jobs on the other side when I go to sleep, just because it says sleep doesn't mean that they're unaware. There's 2 places you could go if you die while the dead are waiting. A pure heart Christian will go to the sky, but the lukewarms will be down here in the parallel, where also the demons are. They are to be put on what's like a probation and must read the Bible while they're there. And first they go up and get judged after they've been down here for a short period, and then they determines where they go. The reason I know this is because when my sister died, I spoke to her a bunch of times on the other side. Most of my jobs were driving people up, and that is another thing. The moving from dimension, from one place to another, in the blink of an eye, whatever, it's not true. Because, I know this because every time I had to travel in my dream. Well, I call it dreams, but it's me out of my body. Every time I travel to do my job at night, I'm on a vehicle. I've always been either on a motorcycle or in a car that I can remember. So I was always in some sort of transportation. But it didn't take as long because it was while I was asleep. By the time I woke up, I had already gone and came back. So you may not be able to go like that, but it is quicker. My sister knew of Jesus but didn't understand him and didn't want to try to understand when she was alive. So I was sent to drive her up, and she was sent back down with me. She was put on probation and asked me to stop visiting because the dead aren't allowed to communicate with the living. So the ones who do are demons and evil spirits. Even though I'm allowed because of my jobs, she still didn't want me to because she didn't want to get in trouble. I was there one night, and I didn't know she was in that place that I go to often. And she still got mad and packed up her stuff and left, so I couldn't talk to her. I also spoke to my best friend who was murdered, but she was on the phone because she had already gone up and stayed there. I talked to my grandmother on the other side also. She also asked me to stop visiting for the same reason. I was allowed to see all these things because it connects the dots for me in the scriptures that I didn't understand before, and I didn't figure this part out until recently. I remember the dreams, but now I know what those ones mean. I'm connecting all the dots. So, any spirit that tries to contact you is evil, because good spirits know better. They know they're not supposed to communicate with the living. Please do not ever use a Ouija board. That is a gateway. And it lets other spirits in through the gateway, and it's basically like a hole into another dimension. All you're doing is opening it with some stupid spell. So I'm hoping that you understand how I've connected these dots here today. If you haven't seen my other videos and you didn't understand this one, you should probably go back and watch those. It's only 2 videos, one about the Antichrist, and any one of the signs videos has the explanation at the end, the last 15 minutes of the video. So that's it. This is my last video, and I'm going to see you on the other side.